Starlog magazine will take you on an incredible science fiction trip into the realm of Star Trek, the Wrath of Khan, into deep space and the Tron computer world, into the Star Wars galaxy for previews of Revenge of the Jedi. Starlog magazine shows you special effects secrets, blueprints and robots, spaceships and aliens, interviews with writers, movie makers, heroes and villains. Starlog is the most popular science fiction magazine in the solar system. You can buy it in magazine stands, but right now you can save money by subscribing for 6 fantastic issues. Send your name and address in just $11.99 to Starlog, Box 2111, Grand Central Station, New York, New York. That's $11.99 to Box 2111. And if you subscribe right now, you'll get a free surprise gift with your first issue. Join the exciting world of Starlog, the magazine of the future.
This video is a collection of random thoughts about Irwin Allen's classic TV show, and even more specifically, one of the greatest characters to ever hit the small screen, Dr. Zachary Smith, as played by Jonathan Harris. Beginning in 1965, Lost in Space ran for 3 seasons here in the US. I didn't catch this show during its initial run, but the show seemed to run forever in syndication during the 70s, and that is where I grew to love this show. And although the show's cast was incredibly talented, including the likes of Guy Williams, June Lockhart, and Mark Goddard, there were 3 other characters that really captured my imagination. There was the ship's robot, there was Will Robinson, played by Billy Mumy, and the man I love to despise, Dr. Zachary Smith. I think it's worth noting that when the show debuted, both Williams and Lockhart, well, they viewed it as a starring opportunity. They believed that the show would give them ample screen time and allow their careers in Hollywood to further blossom. Of course, much like the mischievous Dr. Smith himself, I truly believe that Harris, well, he had alternative plans. You see, I believe that once Harris got his hands on that first couple of scripts, he realized just what a wonderful opportunity had been placed before him. It's not often that a villainous character is played with such zeal. The way that Harris put his energy and enthusiasm into it. Hired late to the show, title credits had already been negotiated, and end of the day, Harris would have to settle for a guest star credit for as long as he remained on the show. And you know what? That was just fine with him. Things had never been all that easy for Harris throughout his life, and he had a way of showing everyone around him just how tenacious and resilient he really was. Originally, Dr. Smith was meant to be a minor character, but in just a few short episodes, it became apparent to everyone involved in the show that much like a certain deputy in the rural town of Mayberry, North Carolina, Dr. Smith was one of the focal points of the show. And just like on Andy Griffith, scripts were all of a sudden rewritten and additional scenes were created specifically for the character. While Dr. Smith's malevolence made me mad, his cowardice, well, okay, I'll admit it, it made me smile. And through it all, I wondered if I were Will Robinson or another member of the Space Family Robinson, would I see him for the man he really was? As time went on, it became clear that Harris was a permanent guest star on the show. Dr. Smith was here to stay, despite the fact that his co-stars had thought the character would be jettisoned after just the first handful of episodes. Some critics, and even some hardcore fans of the show, complained about Harris's antics as Dr. Smith, but for all their complaints, producer Irwin Allen recognized who the true stars of his show were. They were the same ones that I recognized when I watched the show again in the 70s. Billy Mumy and others have talked about their time on the show as well as their experiences with Jonathan Harris. As you might expect, while everyone was cordial with one another, there were a few hard feelings as the tone of the show changed and the focus narrowed from the entire family more to the antics of Dr. Smith, Will Robinson, and his ever-protective robot. Only semi-related, Dr. Smith is back again on the Netflix reimagining of the classic show, and I've got to say that actress Parker Posey is doing a great job with the role. She's different, far more menacing, but at the same time there are moments of vulnerability that make her portrayal of the character very unique. If you haven't caught the reboot, it's definitely worth watching at least an episode or two to see if it's your cup of tea. Alright, one last picture. This time let's go all the way back to Season 1, the black and white season. Don West and Dr. Smith ready for whatever crazy space creature might be threatening the crew of the Jupiter 2. Okay, now it's your turn. Please share your memories in the comments section, and while you're at it, I would appreciate a thumbs up, maybe even share this video on Facebook or Twitter, and what the heck, why not subscribe to the channel? I talk about music, movies, and television, mostly from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.
The question is, how does the movie Lost in Space affect all the collectibles that are out today? Here to tell us all about this, Alan Sundstrom. Good to see you, buddy. How you doing?
Great to be here.
Now, how is the market for Lost in Space with the old television show? How is that market doing, and how does the film influence that today?
Well, I think the film is going to have a lot to do with whether or not the new toys will go up, but I think a lot to do with the cable stations replaying Lost in Space again. It has a lot to do with the resurgence of the old stuff.
Oh, so there is a resurgence.
Oh, totally. I think a lot of people who forgot about Lost in Space and a lot of the toys and the collectibles that were out there are now beginning to realize and get into it again, and especially they're pretty rare.
All right, let's talk about some of the older collectibles. Now, let's start with the cards. What do we have here, Alan?
That's the Topps card set that was put out in the 60s. It was a 55 card set. Probably one of the rarest of all the 1960s non-sports card sets that are out there. And it's a set of 55 and really hard to get, especially in tip-top condition.
If you get the full set in tip-top condition,
you're going to pay anywhere from maybe $700 to $1,000, depending on where you buy it, whether or not at auction or at set sale.
No kidding.
Everything is expensive. When it comes to Lost in Space, especially the vintage merchandise, the prices are insane.
All right. Talk about prices being insane. Let's talk about this one. This is unbelievable.
This is my prized possession.
This is amazing. Tell us about this.
This is the Rotojet gun. This is probably by far the rarest of all 1960s toys.
Toys, period, not just Lost in Space.
Oh, I'm talking about everything.
All right, and so all the 1960s toys, this is the most rare.
It was just sold at auction recently, and bidders from all over the world were calling in to bid on this, and it actually probably realized about 3 times the value that anybody thought it was going to be worth.
So it ended up going for how much?
Almost $15,000.
This went for $15,000?
This went for $15,000, almost 15. I think like 14,800 or something like that. So
that's unbelievable. All right, let's talk about because when you talk about Lost in Space, everybody remembers the robot. So let's talk about the 2 robots that we have here, especially this one here.
Yeah, that's the AHI robot. This is actually the second one that was put out in 1977. The first one was put out by Remco, which is actually the same company, I think, and they made it in 2 different colors. That version, though, probably will sell today anywhere from $700 to $1,200.
The early one, the very first
The very early one.
All
this one here, is, of course, is a little bit less desirable because it was made 10 years later, but it was still a popular toy when it was put out then, and today that one still commands about $300 to $500.
$300 to $500, and that's the one from 1977.
That's the one from 77 from AHI, Azrak Hamway.
Okay. This one looks old, but it's new.
That is actually a reproduction of the original Aurora model kit. It was put out by a company called Polar Lights, who is putting out some fantastic stuff on the marketplace today. And I had put this kit together as a kid, and to redo it again and to repaint it and to take, I mean, it took me half the time as it did as a kid to put it together, but it was just a great amount of fun. And the original model kit probably sells for about $600, $700 in the box.
Here are some of the new collectibles that have come out just recently. How is the movie going to affect that?
I think that the movie, whether or not it's going to do well, will have some sort of influence on how the toys will do. But a lot of movies attain cult status, even though they don't do well. Sometimes at the box office, like Nightmare Before Christmas, didn't do well. The toys were closed out for $10. The same toy that you could have bought of Nightmare Before Christmas for $10 is now $600 today, like a Sally doll in the box. So anything could happen with Lost in Space. It's really a roll of the dice right now because it's a little bit early.
All right, but the kids will determine that.
Playing Mantis is putting out great stuff. The kids are going to love a lot of these pieces that come out. And I think if the young kids get into it, it'll bring up the value, definitely in the long run.
Thank you for stopping by.
No, it's great. It's great.
All right.
Ever wonder what happens when you click on that little join button and become a super fan of the channel? Well, the thing that you might notice right away is that I do my best to prioritize your comments and respond to them first. It's the very least that I can do. And if you stick around for a while, you'll probably also discover the channel member updates. These are exclusive videos that I do 2 to 3 times a month. You know, I gave away a bunch of Remind magazines during the last one. And we have exclusive live streams from time to time. Not every month, but at least a couple of times each quarter. But more than anything else, you have my total appreciation. I know it's only a couple of bucks, but it takes effort to click on that join button and express your support in that unique way.
The Livestream Code and Rating Administration has rated this online event PG. All ages admitted. Please be kind and stay on topic.
Good evening and welcome to the Good Stuff Live RetroPALooza number 4. My name is Dave Sundstrom, and if you enjoy talking about music, movies, mostly TV from decades gone by, you have indeed come to the right place. So let me do this. Let's say hello to some folks. And I want to also say thank you to my executive producers. Executive producers play a critical role on this live stream. They provide a little bit of financial support, and they do this ahead of time in the chat. And so prior to the start of today's live stream, I saw, let me see if I can find these real quick here. I saw this from Lance Chaffin, says, got my shirt, my Thrash shirt. It's real nice. Thank you. Well, hey, look at this. Let me take this off the screen. There's my Thrashpondo shirt as well. I'm enjoying it. It's very, very nice. And I wear it with a lot of pride. It says to everyone out there, I am a friend and supporter of Bob Pons, also known as Thrashpondo. And you know what? The shirt has been selling like hotcakes. You can find a link to it below any of my videos if you're interested in picking up one. But it's selling like hotcakes. It's crazy how much. You know, I wish my Good Stuff. I have a Good Stuff T-shirt out there, and there's just something magical about the Thrashpondo T-shirt. And so I am tickled to. That Bob is allowing me to do this. And by the way, Bob, we'll be bringing him on in just a second. But by the way, Bob, I'm going to send you the actual transparent image so you can start doing your own T-shirts too if you want to. That way, any revenue or anything can come your way. But I certainly have enjoyed being the beneficiary of the first run, the inaugural run of the Thrashpondo T-shirt. And once you get it up and running on your store, Bob, we'll take it off of mine so folks will buy it at your store. But getting back to Lance Chaffin, and also, let me pull this up real quick. My executive producers, I got sidetracked. My executive producers tonight are Lance Chaffin and Mike D. Both of them dropped super chats prior to the beginning of the show. And let me get back here. Mike dropped a $10 super sticker. Wow, that was very kind of you. And again, Lance dropped a $2 super chat acknowledging the receipt of his Thrashpondo t-shirt. So they also both signed up as members of the channel. So thank you both. I know you both have been members in the past, and it's great to see you back. And I hope that I continue to earn your patronage with the bonus videos, the exclusive live streams, and just the prioritized response to questions or comments, that type of thing that I do with channel membership. So thanks, guys. And thank you for keeping me stocked with my Diet Coke. It's critical, and you don't know it, but more critical than ever tonight, because I'm fighting. I hope it's just a 24-hour flu, but I'm not feeling super great, which is why I am so tickled that I've got, with a little help from your friends. I think that's the way the song goes. I've got friends tonight. So I'm actually going to bring them on board, and then we'll say hello to everybody that's here. But I want to go ahead and bring them on. So hold on one second. Let me do a little button clicking here and get rid of that. Oh, and I got to say thank you. So let's find a way to say thank you to both Mike and Lance. We'll do Dr. Detroit, followed by Bruce Lee. How about that?
Hey, look.
Thank you.
Thanks for your support indeed, fellers. Truly, truly appreciate it. And speaking of fine fellers, let me go ahead and bring these folks on one at a time. I don't think Barry's ready yet, but I'll bring on Pat McCormick. Here we go. Hello, Patrick. How are you?
Hey, Dave. Doing pretty good. Sorry you're feeling a little under the weather.
Yeah, thanks. What's really exciting about tonight's live stream? This is an experiment for the two of us. We're actually simulcasting over on your channel as well. So, folks, if you want to, you could bounce back and forth. The experience is mostly the same. I don't know if you have the super chat option over on your channel, but otherwise, I think it's pretty much the same thing. I peeked over there while I was setting everything up while we had the pre-show going, and it looked identical. The chat's identical. Right. And so I just love that this live stream, RetroPALooza 4, is going to be at both places for folks to watch, specifically in replay mode later on.
Right. It's a multi-stream. Welcome to the multi-stream.
Well, welcome, Pat, and so good to have you here. Let me bring on Bob. Thrashpondo Pons.
What is going on, my brothers? Good to see you.
Robert.
Bad, how you doing?
Hey, while Dave's taking a swig, I got to say this. I always notice you wear my t-shirt on all your, and you haven't let me down yet. The only thing missing in my mind is in my wardrobe. I'm kind of wondering where my Thrashpondo shirt is.
I've ordered two. I need a spare so I can alternate. I was going to betray you tonight, Pat. I was going to wear mine tonight. I haven't received it yet, so tonight I shan't betray you. I'll betray you next time, I promise. And Dave, I got to say, not only does that shirt look magnificent on you, I'm still very, very, very proud, and I'm still blushing as to the very, very nice things you said about me there in that little shout out while you were discussing my shirt. And I'm so glad my shirt is working out for you. That is absolutely awesome, and thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. We ought to give a shout out to the originator, the idea guy, Lance Chaffin, right? Executive
Lance
Chaffin tonight, who came up. I'm trying to remember how it all happened, but he just comes up with these ideas in the chat, and one of them was Thrashpondo, but like Thrash Gordon or Flash Gordon.
Did he come up with a RetroPALooza shirt idea?
We need to come up with Lance. Get to work, buddy.
I can see it.
All right, I think Barry is ready for action. Let's see if our friend Barry King from BK on the Air is ready to go. How are you, Barry?
Hey, good evening, RetroPALooza. The Fantastic Four are together again.
At last.
I was just going to leave, actually, Barry. So as soon as you came on, I was like, I know this guy too well. I got to go.
What's up, guys?
How you doing, Barry?
Good. By the way, I'm wearing my Retro TV Trivia underwear tonight, so I don't have a shirt on, but I have it on the underwear. No one has that except me. So
that's exclusive. You got to be a different level of supporter for that.
That's right.
See, if you cut things just the right way and a little sewing here and there.
I'm wearing my Batman underwear. It's very holy.
Bob.
I expected
You
that.
know what? We always appreciate those dad jokes. They're the best.
I'm glad someone does.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
No,
you've
they
got a
are the
legion of fans. You've got a legion of fans when it comes to the dad jokes. All right, we've got everybody on board. I'm going to have you guys tell folks about your channels as we depart today. But folks, here's the deal. All you have to do, if you want to sneak peek at the channels, you could. And I'm not saying you should, but you could go just click on the name in the chat of Pat or Thrashpondo. When they say something in the chat, just click on their name and it'll just take you directly over to their channel. And if you don't see, if it doesn't say subscribe ed, not subscribe, if it doesn't say subscribe ed, then you need to click on that button tonight. Tonight is the night.
Yep, we're talking to you, Ed.
Yeah, here's the news. It costs you $0 to do that. It's absolutely free to click on that little button. Now, the join button, sometimes there's a catch there, but subscribe, let's do it, folks. All right, so let's see who's here. Let me go into the comments. And you know what? Just this community. Holy cow. Tom McCluskey is here, a.k.a. The Hungry Jerk. Lance Chaffin, Gary Carpenter. I'm going to go as fast as I can because we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Kenneth Wilkinson, Steve Tevis. I mean, this guy, you know what? What an honor it is to have Steve Tevis in the chat hanging out with, as part of our community. This guy is, of all of us, YouTube-wise, is the most successful. Over 200,000 subscribers. He invented the phrase, the life and sad ending. So many people have copied it, and there's so many pale imitations of what Steve does on YouTube, but he's so great. Dave Rasmussen, Adrian
great
James,
guy, too.
welcome.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah,
Awesome,
just
man.
a wonderful feller. Just an absolute wonderful feller. Lots of talk between those guys. There's Richie Gray talking about MTV. I don't know if you guys heard MTV News being disbanded after 30 plus years. I didn't watch it
36.
much anymore, but it still makes me kind of sad. Yeah.
Makes me sad too. MTV died a long time ago, so why not? I mean, sorry.
I didn't know it was still around. The
They
news.
still had a news division, but I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about that, Kurt Loder, Tabitha Soren, there were just so many great folks that kind of worked their way up through MTV News, and they were the authorities when it came to music news. Let's see. Scrolling down, Greg is here. That's Greg with 2 G's at the end. Rachel in the 208. Always a treat to have you with us as well. Joe Black, welcome. Super fan, channel member Tracy Roth Myers, channel member Keith E. I didn't say channel member Lance Chaffin, but I think I mentioned that he was a channel member earlier. My channel member Mike D's here, channel member Superplex. Kamhara Cat. I'm just going to say that wrong, but welcome. It's great to have you here. Let's see. Christopher Kraft is over there on Pat McCormick's channel. He's watching via Pat McCormick's channel. How cool is that?
There's somebody on my channel.
Yeah, Emily Miller is watching over on Pat's channel tonight. The simulcast thing is so cool. Dave Thomas is watching us tonight. Simply Steve 68, welcome. Tony Quinn is here as well. Good to have you here, Tony.
The Mighty Quinn.
That's right, the Mighty Quinn.
It looks like Emily has us on 2 phones, one watching mine and the other one watching yours.
Well, thank you for the double support, Emily. Appreciate it.
We're in stereo.
You can do that? Wow.
Yeah, very cool.
Echo.
Very cool. Mr. Led is over on Pat McCormick's channel as well.
He's my
How you doing, Letty? Good to see you.
Yeah, he's not able to, I'm not sure. I assume it's he, but let's just say they are not able to make comments tonight. They're just listening, which is okay. That's one of my favorite ways to participate in live streams is actually, I do this all the time with Bob's live streams. It's just listen to them and then I'll comment afterwards,
Well, being on radio, I'm used to just listening.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Interactivity, overrated.
Or being listened to.
Carolyn Harmon, welcome. The Nostalgic Pod Blast is coming over from Pat's channel, hanging out with us. So good to have you here. Willie Bowen, welcome. We've got half a century's worth of people with us here. Danny Staten is hanging out. By the way, thanks for that package, Danny. Folks, if you're thinking that I've opened up the Hall of Nostalgia for new no, but I do want to acknowledge Danny dropped off or sent a gift. Hall of Nostalgia's closed. It's bursting at the seam. My wife says no more. Let's see, but thanks, Danny. Raja 1938, channel member Dominic D is here. DOA version 2.1, Melissa Foster. Let's see. Nostalgic Pod Blast wants to know, is this guy Dave a college professor, a published author? Hope he gets better fast. Well, neither. My career has been in financial services my entire, going on 30 years. But my love is what we're talking about tonight. Let's see. Oh, David Rasmussen dropped off a super sticker for us. Thank you so much, David. That's very kind of you to do that. And Andy Kaufman ought to, that's the right thing to do. Here we go.
Thank you very much.
The man was a true comedic genius. A true comedic genius. An acquired taste. Some people didn't get him, but I sure loved him. Channel member John Collins is here. Custom God is here. Let's see. Who else? We're almost done. Alberto Morales is here. Welcome. Good to have you with us. If I miss somebody, just know
I see my buddy Sean Murray is here. I know Sean.
Sean Murray.
You're
welcome, Sean. Good to have you here. I see Chance acting demo coming over from Pat's channel. That's awesome. Mike and Kathy are here. Channel member Dominic D is here.
I saw Karen Lee Maloney.
Karen Lee Maloney's here. Welcome, Karen Lee. That's always a treat to have her hanging out with us. Let's see. Channel member John Collins is asking, Dave, I have a thought. Have you ever thought about making this a true network, meaning that all these wonderful gentlemen would have YouTube programs on your channel and, of course, split the profits? You know what? I would be open to that idea, but I know they all have aspirations of monetizing their own channels too. So I want to support them in however they want to be supported. And so but that's a great idea. It's very interesting, John.
We could call it Dave TV.
Dave TV. And the only problem with that is that I'd have to do the books. And I'm trying to get away from financial services. I just want
hire an
to
accountant.
send me a check.
And they keep bringing me back.
That's right. That's right. I had retired and now I'm back to work. Kimberly Wiederhold is coming over from your channel, Pat. That's awesome. That's a name I recognize from the past. Good to have you here, Kimberly. Little Wing is here. Welcome, Little Wing. And I think I am caught up. As caught up as I'm going to be. We may say hello to other folks during the conversation. Folks like Al Oduardi. Hello. Good to have you here as well. But we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Tonight, we're talking about 60s science fiction television. And there's some shows that immediately my mind goes to. But there's some other shows that, truthfully, hopefully you guys are more of an expert at than, between the four of us, I bet you we can talk about a wide swath of television shows during the 60s that were absolutely delightful. Absolutely.
Thrash is warming up.
Really? We can, yeah.
Real quick, Barry, because I haven't listened to your latest podcast, the review on Guardians of the Galaxy 3, stars, numeric rating, and 2 or 3 sentences. What were your thoughts?
Well, I'll give you the thumbs rating. I give it 2 thumbs up. I mean, as of late, Marvel has been kind of falling behind as far as maybe quality of their earlier films, in my opinion, a lot of other people's opinion, but I saw it this past Friday, and I give it a big 2 thumbs up because it's a great third act, because it's the last movie with this iteration with James Gunn and the director and the writer. He made a nice act 3, and it has a wonderful ending. And if I say anything else, I'm going to spoil it because almost the whole movie is kind of a spoiler. So, but it's great, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else will go out. Everybody go see it.
Yeah. Pat or Bob, have either of you seen that movie yet?
Not yet. No.
I never get to the theaters anymore, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
My son usually,
I'm going to go to the theaters for that one. I'm kind of, it's this weird place now where so many shows, if you just wait 3 or 4 weeks, Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods, for example, I was gonna go see it at the theater, and then I turn on my TV and boom, it's there.
Yeah.
And so I got to see TV's Michael Gray make his cameo
Yeah.
there and call Shazam Captain Marvel. How fitting was that?
That was great.
It was such a wonderful moment. I think we are struggling or suffering a little bit from just there have been so many superhero movies that a movie that's good like Shazam 2 just kind of gets overlooked. It wasn't the best. I think the first one was a better movie, but it's good to hear. I was really worried. I'd heard rumblings that Guardians 3 might not be quite up to snuff. I loved 1. I thought 2 was very good, but not as good as 1. How do you rank them out? Do you still say 1 is the best, Barry?
Yes, I do. I mean, to me, the 1 is the best. The second one's just right below it, and the third one's just right below that. None of them go way down here. So
yeah,
it's hard to outdo sometimes the first film.
It really is.
Bring your tissues with you, though. I'll say that. Bring your tissues.
I'm a crier too. I'm a crier, Barry. That Avatar 2 had me weeping at the end. Just absolutely. I had to take off the glasses. They got all messed up.
Oh no. Well, you mentioned Shazam. I want to also thank Michael Gray for coming on our last RetroPALooza and chatting with us in the chat. Yeah.
How cool was that to have Michael in the chat visiting with our community? For me, that was a special treat to have Michael in there, not necessarily hobnobbing with us, but hobnobbing and chatting with our community. That's very, very cool. And it says a lot about the character of TV's Michael Gray.
Yes, very good.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead.
I was going to say, I put out an invite too tonight. We'll see.
That would be great.
I would big surprise.
What surprises we might get in the chat? Who knows? That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're up to 62 people hanging out with us, so that's a treat. I've got a quick little video that will kick us off, kick off the conversation, and then we're just going to go around the table and talk about. Maybe we'll have everybody be thinking, fellers. Be thinking of your top 3 60s science fiction TV shows.
I have to think. Okay.
Be thinking about that and have a spare in hand in case we don't all just want to say the same 3 over and over. So here we go. Be right back, folks. The 1960s marked a turning point for science fiction on television as the genre went mainstream and gained a wider audience. One of the most iconic shows of the decade was Star Trek, which premiered in 1966 and quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Star Trek was created by Gene Roddenberry and featured a diverse cast of characters who explored the universe on the Starship Enterprise. The show tackled issues of race, politics, and morality, and its optimistic vision of the future inspired generations of viewers. Another influential show from the 60s was The Twilight Zone, which aired from 1959 to 1964 and became known for its surreal and thought-provoking stories. Hosted by Rod Serling, The Twilight Zone explored themes such as time travel, alternate dimensions, and the human condition, and it featured many well-known actors of the era. And over across the pond, one sci-fi series that absolutely cannot be overlooked is Doctor Who, which premiered in 1963 and continues to this day. The show follows the adventures of the Doctor, a time-traveling alien who travels through time and space. Another classic science fiction series from the 60s was Lost in Space, which premiered in 1965 and followed the adventures of the Robinson family as they tried to find their way home. The show was notable for its use of special effects and its colorful, campy style. Those shows were just the tip of the iceberg, because in the 60s there were a whole host of other science fiction TV shows such as The Invaders, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and The Time Tunnel. All right. So I said top 3. Let's just start with 1, and I'm going to go clockwise. So I'm going to start with Pat over. Oh man, I should turn on the mirror effect, but anyway.
Everything's backwards.
Everything is backward. Oh, there we go. If I point in the other direction, that guy. We're going to start with Pat.
We got to change position.
Barry, you get to go first next. After
First next.
first next, you get to be the second first.
Like second breakfast, you know.
That's right. Second
Sure.
Brunch.
All right, Pat. What's tell us? Throw one out there. And folks, by the way,
One?
I'm going to have you. I'll tell us your favorite shows in a minute. So don't say them in the chat yet, because I want to be able to find them, and I don't want to scroll to the very top. So, Pat, you're up.
So you said one? You said
Yeah,
one.
let's start with one. It doesn't have to be your favorite. It's just one that is really cool.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. It's going to be my favorite, The Outer Limits. So there you go. Enough said.
Yeah.
I'm done. No.
Yeah. Don't adjust your TV set.
Yeah, you know,
Your
right
horizontal.
from the beginning, the uniqueness of something has actually taken control of my TV. And at the age that we were, when it was on, it was like, oh my God, there is something. I can't change my channel. I guess I gotta watch this thing. And as a kid, it scared the pants off me. Specifically, you know, certain episodes come to mind. Taste of Armageddon was probably the one that really made me go, I can't handle this. Until I rediscovered it in my years in Hollywood, my lonely years playing guitar 12 hours a day. And it was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to go get a bunch of Star Trek episodes, a bunch of Outer Limits episodes, and binge, you know, basically. And it was at that point, of course, I was already a Star Trek fan big time, but Outer Limits really started to grow on me. And to this day, I still think it's the best sci-fi TV that's ever been on. And so there's mine.
Really good stuff. Totally agree with you. It's one of those shows that I found during the 70s. Late night, we had a UHF station that was playing it at 10 p.m. So it was perfect timing for just a little something that was a little odd, a little eerie before settling off into slumberland and, you know, dreaming up the sequel to whatever I just watched. Love that show as well. I was going to add some more, but talk about a different show. But I want to let's go to Bob. Bob, what about you?
I'm going to open with what was possibly my first exposure to science fiction on TV, and that was Lost in Space. I was too young to remember it in first run, but as a preschooler, they used to show it on afternoons on a local channel in my area, and I simply fell in love with it. My father was a fan of science fiction. If he was home, he'd watch it with me. If I was solo, I'd watch it by myself. And the show had everything. It had action. It had drama. I believe Penny was probably my first crush. It didn't just have cool spaceships and aliens and robots. It had dinosaurs. I was a dinosaur fanatic. And like all Irwin Allen projects, it had those hokey monitor lizard and baby alligator dinosaurs with the fins taped to it. And I could watch those two things fight all day. Very sorry to the animal rights activists. It predated them. But it was a great trope, and I loved it. And I loved the show then, and I love it to this day.
The best music, too. The best music.
Johnny Williams, right?
Johnny Williams.
I've heard of him. He's done a few things. Right, Barry?
Yeah, he's done a few things here and there. Yeah.
So
still going strong, too.
Early Lost in Space or later Lost in Space? Which one? What do you prefer?
Probably the later ones.
Right, Bob.
Yeah, but probably the later ones, because those are the ones that bear in mind I was a very young child, and those are the ones that really. Is that a Gorn?
Maybe.
Here today, Gorn tomorrow.
It's either a Gorn or I'm excited to see you. It's one or the other.
A baby Gorn.
Candy Gorn. But the later ones tended to be a little more animated. There was a lot more going on. I wouldn't say hokey, but they sort of played to a young child with ADHD to their sense of captivation. Not that I didn't love the old black and white ones, but I think that the later color ones were just a little more my speed as a child.
Right.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Much more cartoonish. Much more cartoonish.
Absolutely.
Yes, cartoonish is probably the best way of putting it.
Far more fantastical. for sure.
But not to take away from the first episodes, because they were some of the best.
Great sci-fi, right?
Oh,
amazing,
my gosh.
amazing sci-fi.
Yeah.
Marta Kristen said she was doing the early ones, and I was like,
I'm glad you mentioned your Penny crush, because I may have experienced that one as well. Barry, you're up.
Well, I'll rehash one of them because The Outer Limits is on my list, but I was trying to do them in order down to number one. Outer Limits is definitely on there. I used to watch The Outer Limits late at night on a local station growing up in Alabama. It was Saturday nights at midnight, and I started watching it, and it was a creepy show. Pat is right about that, and a lot of people would just kind of dismiss it as a second-rate ripoff of the Twilight Zone, and it actually wasn't. The Outer Limits was an hour long as opposed to Twilight Zone's regular running time of 30 minutes. I know they broke that sometime, but the Outer Limits was more science fiction based. The Twilight Zone was more of an anthology series that was kind of a different situation every time with a shock ending, and the Outer Limits was that way too, but the Twilight Zone was mostly that. But it was a creepy show. I mean, out of all the episodes that I think creeped me out the most as a kid, and you forgive me, I don't remember the title of it, but it was the episode where Eddie Albert's with his wife and they get stranded, and these tumbleweeds are out west and they're alive. And somebody's going to type the title of it in our chat, I'm sure. But it was just it was an old man in a cabin in these killer tumbleweed things, and it was just at midnight, and you're alone, and your mom's in the bed, and you're like, okay, what was that? Did I hear something outside? Is there a tumbleweed out there? Fantastic. The Outer Limits, Joseph Stefano and all that crew that put that show together. Dominic Frontier's music, the controller voice, Vic Perrin, who was a character actor that was in Dragnet, Star Trek, you name it. Vic Perrin was out there, and he did it. Fantastic show. Love The Outer Limits. So I'll second Matt on that. I'll second Pat on that. But the funny thing about me, guys, is when it comes to Irwin Allen, I never watched Lost in Space, and I really haven't seen a lot of Lost in Space even now as an adult. And I know that might be sacrilege to some Irwin Allen fans, but I just hadn't got around to doing it. When I was a kid and tried to watch it, I just went, "This is not Star Trek. This is not Star Trek. I got to watch Star Trek. That's my favorite show." That may be on my list later, but. The Irwin Allen show that I remember I didn't see any of these in the 60s. I saw them in the 70s, but I'm trying to make it ones that I'm familiar with. And my favorite Irwin Allen show, I've only seen a select episode of all the others, but my favorite was Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. There's something about that show, based on the 1961 film of the same title. That's a show that I think that was like MASH. It went way beyond the movie that it was based on. It was a wonderful show. It did have something in common with Lost in Space. Later episodes, Irwin Allen, we started having the monster of the week and even borrowing stuff from Lost in Space and putting it, monster suits and stuff. So, but it was still a wonderful, underwater stuff fascinated me. And what an awesome vessel the Seaview was. What a great looking ship that was, and a submarine. And Pat mentioned John Williams earlier that did the music for Lost in Space, and I think Time Tunnel as well. He worked on Irwin Allen's show. But guys, Jerry Goldsmith wrote the theme song to Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea for the opening season 2 episode. I think it was Jonah and the Whale, and he did the music to some of the episodes. But he rewrote a new theme to Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea for one episode, and it only lasted for one. Then they went back, I think, to Paul Sawtell's theme that we were used to hearing, which I preferred anyway, because I did like it. But there's a little trivia for you. Jerry Goldsmith got his hand at Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Richard Basehart, what a great actor.
Yeah. The whole cast.
He was in a 1940s movie. He Walked the Night. Fantastic movie about a criminal where he was staying at one step ahead of the police, and a stage play called The Andersonville Trial, where he played General Wirtz on PBS, which was a fantastic production directed by George C. Scott. And David Hedison, another great actor, went on to be Felix in a couple of the James Bond movies and on soap operas. So he had a lot of talent with Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Yeah, agreed.
For sure.
And good music, like I said, good music with Outer Limits as well. I mean, that was part of the thing about the 60s, folks. That's what got me into all of this. Those theme songs are the best. The interstitial music was the best.
It's something that's missing these days. I've talked about it on prior
Yes.
videos and on prior live streams. Is
I agree.
that need to sell commercial time has really, really done a disservice to the viewer, because music and theme music, that opening intro with the theme, and sometimes Sherwood Schwartz would write all these great little ditties, you know, they set the stage for what was to come, and it didn't matter if you'd heard it already 50, 100 times. It was still welcome as you kind of prepared to get ready for whatever this week's adventure was.
The music was kind of a character. You expected it to be there.
It was part of the experience. It's like coming to attractions in the movie theater.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic, great stuff. And hum new shows with some exceptions. You know, everybody's like, hum the theme song to so and so. I'm like, oh, I can't remember it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a theme.
Yeah.
Well, it all ended for me on "Come and Knock on My Door." Oh no.
Come on, a guy living with two girls the way that happened. Tell me that wasn't a sci-fi show from the 70s. Yeah.
It was definitely fantasy.
It was.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it just got cheap. That was the problem.
Yep. You guys mentioned Twilight Zone. I've got that for me, because it employed so often it seemed it employed the work of Richard Matheson, who's one of my favorite authors of all time. There's so many episodes that I can think of. I was going to put a clip in here of To Serve Man, but it was a spoiler clip. It's my favorite scene, one of my favorite scenes of entire 60s television, as this guy is boarding an alien spaceship and a woman says something to him. Yeah.
Don't forget the salt or something like that, right?
Something like that. It's a cookbook. Is what she said.
One of the best reveals on television.
Yeah, one of the best reveals ever. And that show was so good at the twist, right? The twist at the end.
Oh, yeah. Very much so.
Sometimes they got exactly what they asked for, and it so often turned out to be not what they really wanted, right?
Telly Savalas and Talkie Tina at the end. I mean, oh my goodness, that's
and I don't like you.
What was the one? What was the one where the guy was sentenced to do his time on an asteroid, and they sent him a robot wife.
Right?
You guys remember that one?
Jack Warden. Jack Warden was
the title, but yeah.
I don't remember the title either, but I remember as a kid how much that affected me, because the ending is so freaking violent. You couldn't imagine, even today, where a guy would just hold a gun up to a woman and shoot her face off. And her going,
oh yeah,
Corey. And I was just like, that ain't right. That's not right.
How many careers did it help launch? I mean, the episode of Two with Charles Bronson and Elizabeth Montgomery as the last male and female on Earth after war. Fantastic. Done. Yeah.
Same with Outer Limits too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Everybody was on it.
Yeah. Really good stuff. One other I'll mention is that just came to my mind, but it's definitely a 60s science fiction show. It's in the comedic vein. But you mentioned the robot wife. Did anybody ever see what was it called?
The Living Doll.
My Living Doll with Julie Newmar and Bob Cummings.
Yeah.
Bob didn't make it through the entire run of the show. He didn't like the way the show was, so he ended up leaving before it was finally canceled. But Julie Newmar as a robot wife. I'm sorry. That's a show that is definitely worth revisiting if you've never seen it. She's great.
Far better than Uncle Martin. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyone have any fond memories of that one?
No, I've seen the title sequence and whatever's on YouTube about it and heard about it and did a little investigating, but I never saw the show ever. I've never seen it, but I did hear about it. Yeah.
I saw a couple episodes. It just wasn't on my radar. Comedy wasn't. But
I think it might be on Tubi. At least it was at one time.
I'm really trying.
Same for It's About Time that Sherwood Schwartz put together. Yeah, It's About Time. It was one I didn't get to see a lot, but they used the Gilligan's Island sets and some of the music.
Yeah,
didn't see a lot of it either. Yeah,
and of course, my favorite, Martian.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill Bixby, Ray Walston,
Oh,
great
Ray,
stuff.
yeah.
Mr. Hand. Let's just call him what he is. He's Mr. Hand.
And David Banner.
Yes, and David Banner.
And if I get her on my podcast, which is probable, I'm going to say probable. Probable is kind of possible, but not really for sure.
Yeah.
But Julie Newmar is on the radar, and I will grill her about that. I was just like, hey, compared to Catwoman, what was the living doll? Like, come on.
Yeah. Talk about it. Spill.
Comparison.
Tell us about this show. Yeah.
Oh, that'll be good.
And the Twilight Zone. And the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I sure hope that happens, Pat.
Buck
that
Rogers.
will be a treat for sure.
That's fingers crossed.
Flight of the War Witch, Buck Rogers. She played a good villain in that too. 20th century.
Buck Rogers had Frank Gorshin, Cesar Romero, and Julie Newmar in that fantastic first season.
Oh yeah,
that
great,
fantastic first season, and then
that'll be for our '70s sci-fi show.
That's right. We'll talk more about that later. We will talk more about that later. Let's do this. Let's go and see what kind of shows they remember, and then we might have to do some cleanup ourselves if something doesn't get mentioned that needs to be mentioned. Exactly. We'll do the scrubbing at the end. Let me go over here, though, and look at comments, and let me throw this question up on the screen, which is, what was your favorite science fiction TV show from the 60s? So it's your turn, folks. Tell us what your favorite show was. Let's see. Oh, by the way, here's a great comment that I'll put up on the screen. Hey, hi, Sakina McMurrin. Great to have you here. And this is from channel member John Collins. Pat,
Thanks,
your interviews
John.
have made you such an in-demand megastar. Bob, isn't that shirt that Dave is wearing awesome? I have one. Yes, I posted a picture of you wearing it, John.
I saw it. The slate blue. It looks awesome on you. Matches your eyes.
They haven't sent one to the megastar yet, though, John. Just so you know. I'm a large, by the way.
Danny Staten says, and he just did a review on his channel, folks, on the Daily Dan blog channel of an Invaders comic book. It's actually the second Invaders comic book he's reviewed, but the Invaders with David Vincent, played by Roy Finnis. Kind of a sci-fi version of The Fugitive in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and thanks to our Nostalgic Pod Blast chat, I had never seen the Invaders, and he gifted me the box set, and I'm currently watching it when I can. And very great show, very interesting.
Yeah,
show. Quinn Martin production, a Quinn Martin production.
Well, yeah. There you go.
Between Irwin Allen and Quinn Martin, they really gifted us with a lot of great sci-fi in the late 60s. Yeah. I always get confused which one was which, but.
A lot of great American science fiction TV, particularly later on in the 70s and 80s, is really The Fugitive with some type of sci-fi setting. And The Invaders always struck me as, you know how in the 1978 adaptation of Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
Philip Kaufman, yeah.
You see the actor from the original. He runs in front of the car. He's like, "You're next, you're next." And I remember thinking, "Oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing if it's been like The Fugitive, where for 20 years he's been on the run, and they finally catch up with him in New York." So, I mean, I think that could have actually held water. But The Invaders are definitely that template. It's really the Invasion of the Body Snatchers with The Fugitive.
With the communist Red Scare stuff thrown in as well. That was big at the time too. Yeah,
of course,
absolutely. Not really science fiction, but definitely in the fantasy realm, and certainly popular during the late 60s and early 70s. Dark Shadows.
How about Sci-Fi? Now, I have to say Sci-Fi because on that time, The Avengers was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. Diana Rigg. Is it Riggs or Rigg? Riggs. Yeah.
They mixed it really well.
They did. They sure did. Gary Carpenter says The Addams Family and the Munsters. Custom God coming over from Pat's channel, by the way, says Star Trek is the best science fiction ever. I don't disagree with you there. It's fantastic. Steve Wood says Thunderbirds are go. That's Jerry Anderson.
It's on my list. It's on my list.
Yep. Let's see. Jay Aldridge has a list: Star Trek, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and Space Ghost. Little Saturday morning action, yes, for sure. Skoldron's Realm says, hands down, Star Trek. We're going to get a lot of that, I'm sure. Channel member Mike D says, my favorite Martian. Oh, Kimberly Wiederholt says, don't get me started on Buck's second season. I know. As much as I liked Hawk, that just the fun disappeared. We'll talk about that in a future live stream. Channel member Superplex, Star Trek, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and Time Tunnel. Just watched an episode of Time Tunnel the other day, and they went to the future of 1978. It's an interesting
medallions,
craziness,
disco balls.
They could have watched Superman in the theater if they went.
That's right. Only 257 says The Outer Limits. Danny Staten says Star Trek for sure. Kenneth Wilkinson says Doctor Who. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Rachel Lynn 208 says Twilight Zone, no contest. Gary Carpenter has been saying this throughout the chat, so I'm gonna. This is not the first time he's mentioned this. Pat, please get Barbara Rush on your show.
Yeah, Barbara Rush was too close for comfort, right?
No, no. Barbara, you're thinking of.
I'm thinking of Lydia Cornell.
Yeah,
I'm trying for her.
Barbara Rush is older. I'm trying to think what Barbara Rush is. Tell us what Barbara Rush has been in, Gary, so Pat has somewhere to go with that.
Was Barbara? Oh, yeah. Was she in the Disney Freaky Friday?
We are four experts.
Yeah. She might have been. The name's familiar, but I'm not tying it to any one thing right now.
It'll come to us right after the podcast ends. I mean, the podcast. Sorry, see what I got on my head. Live stream.
That's the problem with live streams, right? You gotta be sharp, and you guys are. That's why I have you here with me, because I need.
Boy, are we a lot of help.
Matt Sweeney says Star Trek the original series, as does Mike and Kathy. Kimberly Wiederholt mentions one that I really enjoyed. A lot of early work there, and not green screen, but in front of a screen with Land of the Giants. The special effects were quite interesting, and for the time, I thought really amazing. Tamharakat says Lost in Space. Cosmos Trek rightly points out that the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, was also a fugitive.
Certainly was
influenced greatly by the fugitive.
Was.
Roger 1938 says Buster Crabbe was on Buck Rogers once. He sure was during that fun first season. David Rasmussen says the Jetsons. Yeah, Saturday mornings, the Jetsons were great, and that was a 60s show. Melissa Foster says Doctor Who. Channel member Dominic D says Lost in Space. George M says The Time Tunnel. I'm going to just go for shows right at the moment. Only 257, Outer Limits. Hey, Ron, I'm prepared. Good to have you here with us. Karen Lee says Lost in Space. DOA version 2.1 has a list. Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Star Trek, and you've got to add Twilight Zone and Outer Limits too. That's a great list. That's a fantastic list of 5 shows. Steve says, huh? Willie Bowen says Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Gary Carpenter mentioned the Addams Family Monsters. Don't really consider them science fiction, but definitely in the fantasy category.
Or horror.
Yeah.
Comedic horror.
Comedic horror. That's a good way to describe that. Let's see. Do I got any more shows here? Looking for more shows while we have Gary's quote up.
Barbara Rush was on The Fugitive, according to Chance. Mr. Bartell.
Barbara Rush was on The Fugitive. There you go.
And an episode of The Outer Limits as well. She
was also Barbara Rush, now that I think of it, was in When Worlds Collide too.
No, it came from outer space.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
Boy, look, suddenly we know a lot.
Just takes a while for the old neurons to fire.
I have no idea how that happened.
Of course.
Oh,
the Nostalgic Pod Blast mentions The Invaders. Happy you are seeing it, is what he says to you, Barry. And how would you guys categorize? I know you've watched this, Thrash. How would you categorize The Prisoner? Is it sci-fi, or is it more spy TV, or is it a mix?
No, it's definitely sci-fi. Although you can still make a case for there because he is a secret agent. But he's brought to this sort of secret island training facility, high-tech, futuristic, all kinds of very cutting-edge technology. The whole thing is very technology-driven.
The village.
And when technology becomes a character, it automatically crosses over into science fiction, in my opinion. So definitely sci-fi.
And a fantastic show too. I mean, a lot of people have speculated that he's John Drake from his old show Danger Man, just put on the prisoner. I made Patrick McGowan just denied it, but I kind of thought that he was. So
It was.
but it was ahead of its time. I mean, it was people didn't get it, and it was so fun to watch for me.
Oh, and here's a speculative spoiler alert. So don't listen to me if you don't want me to ruin anything. But I have a fan theory that you know how you never see number one over the entire course of the show?
Yeah.
That's because test it to see if it's efficient. He goes in to see if he can actually break it or break them. So the whole thing is a shakedown cruise to his own master plan. So he actually is.
Now, did anybody else lose Thrash's audio there?
Yeah, I thought it was being censored.
I might have censored you, Thrash, but go ahead. I did that for comedic effect.
Something about being number one is what I first I saw. I went to number one. Really, I did go to number two, but you know, any port in a storm, and you gotta go.
Tell us what you were going to say. I was having a bit of fun.
Dave is number one.
That's a blast. For a second I thought I lost my audio, and after all this, I have another technical problem. I'm going to cry. But okay, I will go through all of that again. I'm picking up where I think I left off. We actually find out, since you never see number one, we actually find out that number 6 is in fact number one. The whole thing was his pet project. He designed the island. He designed it as some type of counterintelligence master complex. And the only way he can test it to see how flawless it is for him to go in and try to break his own creation. So the reason you never see number one is because he is number one.
Well, that's a pretty interesting explanation as compared to the last episode that they had, which was just a complete crazy mind trip, which was weird. A lot of people received it very poorly the last episode. So yeah, that's a good theory. I like that.
Well done. Alo Duarte says Star Trek, Lost in Space, Johnny Quest, my favorite Martian. I don't consider Wild Wild West. I actually do consider it to be a bit of
Sci-Fi. It's Sci-Fi.
Western.
Sci-Fi, yeah.
Sci-Fi, yep. All right, let's see. What else do we got? Emily Miller, I don't know. Did the Invaders have an ending? Do any of you guys know that?
I'm not there yet. I'm watching it, so I'm still on my way.
It's my understanding the show was canceled before it did some wrap-up episode.
Yeah.
My understanding.
Jeez, you know, the guys from Time Tunnel are still out there. They never got it back. It's like, you gotta finish it somehow. No. Save money.
Let's see what else we got. You, by the way, when you were thinking of Too Close for Comfort, you were thinking of Sarah Rush.
That's what I thought you were talking. That's what I thought you were talking about.
That's
the mother.
Character on
the mother. Yeah.
Isn't Sarah the mother, or is Sarah Lydia Cornell?
She's the mother. Okay, I give myself 2 pats on the back for that.
Pat gets a pat.
Pat.
And here's a small ask, Pat. Please get Ron Howard.
No problem. Dave knows him.
A small ask.
No problem. Dave knows him.
Barbara Rush was also on Batman, so that's good to know.
Okay.
And DOA version 2.1 says you got to add Ultraman.
Right.
Ultraman's on my list.
Yeah.
We could do a whole show on Japanese sci-fi from the 60s.
All right.
Imports.
I'm going to take off the comments here. We're going to have to ignore the comments because we're going to do one more round because I promised Barry he could go second. So, Barry, it's your turn to go first, second. What shows did we miss? What didn't we talk about as everybody shared their favorites?
Well, there's a real big elephant in the room that we've hinted around, but we haven't talked to, and it's a show that we can do an entire podcast about, and we have done an entire podcast show about it. Pat and I, and a lot of us have. We mentioned it earlier. Star Trek. I mean, when I say Star Trek, I don't have to say anything after that, like The Next Generation or any subtitle. When I say Star Trek, I mean Star Trek from the 66 to 69 television series on NBC. I mean, it had it all. Before I get on with Star Trek, I do want to mention one that we didn't talk about, which was kind of animated. Well, the mouths look weird. You guys remember Clutch Cargo? I'm sure all of you remember it, that used the the weird lip syncing box lip thing that they did. They had another show a lot of people forget about called Space Angel. And I used to watch Space Angel because it's from the early 60s to mid 60s. And it was basically a space show about Scott McCloud, the Space Angel, going out on adventures and stuff in a very limited animated way, like Clutch Cargo. And even as a kid, it freaked me out. You know, I'm like, why is their mouths all red and moving and stuff and talking? And that's really weird. But it was very exciting and I really liked it. But Star Trek to me is it's number one. I mean, look what spawned from that little series. And it was little. It only ran for 3 seasons on NBC. Wasn't that successful, I guess, in a way, or it would have went on further. It was successful enough to get 3 seasons. Yeah. But in syndication in the 70s, boy, did it explode. That's when I discovered it. That's probably when you guys discovered it as well. Growing up locally in Alabama, I had TV stations I can pull in from Chattanooga, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, and Huntsville, Alabama. So Star Trek was on 3 times on 3 different stations on the afternoons when I got home from school. It's almost like I could pick from 3 episodes to watch, but it's the one that's parodied the most. I mean, it was a great show. It was a good show for a reason. Those actors, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, and the supporting actors, but especially those big 3, they were played great off of each other. And you had Kirk, the character, against a logical. It was almost Kirk's personality talking to him. Spock and McCoy were his conscience. These guys were a trilogy of thought. McCoy was the emotional heart giving him advice. Then Spock was the logical guy giving him advice. They even hinted on that in the Enemy Within episode when Kirk got split in 2. But it was a perfect mash of writing and music. I would say special effects because I thought they were a little better than some of the other 60 shows that were on at the time. The Enterprise was a beautiful ship. So for me, Star Trek, wow. It was probably if not the greatest science fiction show ever. To me, I always vote for it as the greatest television series ever. Sure. And if you say something else that was popular, you're not wrong. It's a personal opinion, but Star Trek is it. Keep on trekking.
I can't imagine a world without Trek. That's how impactful it was in my life growing up. I learned life lessons, and it was so forward thinking in terms of how we viewed people and particular ideas. I'm literally grateful to Gene Roddenberry and everyone involved with particularly the original series as well as Next Generation for the amount of guidance and thought-provoking episodes that really I think were formative in my life and the person that I am.
Do you guys remember the first episode of Star Trek you saw?
Oh, wow.
Well, do you mean the one with Sally Kellerman? Or
no, I mean,
do we remember the first one we saw?
Your first episode, the first time you saw it. What episode was it?
Day of the Dove.
Good. Thrash?
I would have been in preschool with my father. I'll be honest, I can't remember it.
Such a baby. Barry.
I was.
Never mind the little kid here.
being the baby out of us 4, you're still old, so that's bad. As old as we are.
Worst of all worlds.
Right. I got turned on to Star Trek with the animated series. That's the first thing I saw was the animated series.
That doesn't count.
Then it made me go backward.
It's canon.
Right. It made me discover the old show. And I think my earliest memories that I think that I saw of the old show was the Doomsday Machine, which actually wound up being my favorite episode. And I think that might've been the first one that I saw. I used to think it looked like a little bugle snack. The Doomsday Machine looked like a cone, ice cream cone, a bugle. And I think that was it. Yeah.
I was going to say the first one I saw was Shore Leave. It not only turned me on to the show, it turned me on to sci-fi and classic television all at the same time. It started everything for me, and everything you see that I've done on my channel and in the world is all due to that catching Shore Leave at one of my most depressed moments of my life.
Wow.
And going, it's really just what you think about. Yeah. Holy smokes. I love this show.
It's a good episode. Great.
Yeah.
And he just speared that guy. And now he's alive again. Wow. Now that's sci-fi.
Right.
All right. So we got Star Trek from Barry. Going back around the horn, Bob, did we miss something that's on your list or one you want to share?
Yes, one that is actually very near and dear to me, which has been mentioned, but Doctor Who. I fell in love with Doctor Who. The first exposure I had to Doctor Who, I was going through like either a Starlog. By the way, I love that ad you had for Starlog magazine. By the way, that was amazing. It even refers to Return of the Jedi as Revenge of the Jedi.
It did. Did you notice that too? Yeah.
Yeah, which means it had to have been from 81, I'd say, maybe 82 of the latest. But regardless, I was reading an old Famous Monsters or Starlog or something, and I read about this English superhero, really, called Doctor Who, and I became like obsessed with it. And they started showing it on the PBS in my area when I was a kid, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Favorite Doctor, of course, Tom Baker, although I have seen others. And the show, in my opinion, just had everything. He was a man of action, but sort of a Sherlock Holmes who always knew how to figure things out. He did occasionally get into scrapes, but it was all up here. He was cerebral. He worked things out, and he had friends who he took care of, and they were his entourage, and they had adventures, and the villains were great. I mean, the special effects were inconsistent. Sometimes they got very hokey. But I just fell in love with the show. And to me, I think it's one of the best examples of not only import science fiction, but just science fiction as a whole altogether.
You don't become the longest running sci-fi series of all time just by accident, do you?
No, you don't.
I mean, I guess not. Yeah.
No, you don't.
All right. I cannot disagree. I did not get into the Doctor until later episodes, later iterations. I think the first one I actually watched was Tom Baker. But of course, these later seasons, I'd gotten into it with my oldest son as he enjoyed a few of those seasons, and I watched them with him. I thought, it's great science fiction. And the British know how to do it just as well as we do, for sure.
Or better.
Or better.
Or better, arguably better.
Yeah. Pat, you're up.
Okay, well, I already kind of gave it away that Outer Limits was my number one, but I do have a strong second choice, and that was Lost in Space. And I'm going to say it would be the opposite experience that our good buddy Thrashpondo had, in that I really didn't care for it when it got campy, when it became hyper-colored, trying to be Batman. It lost every edge that it could have possibly had, and then just turned into fantasy. If it wasn't for John Williams' score, none of that stuff would have worked, because he literally had to paint the picture for every scene that was happening with his music. Those first 2 or 3 episodes were not TV shows. They were epic films with everything you could ever want in an adventure sci-fi classic. And the thing is, I got to talk to Marta Kristen, and she agreed. As a matter of fact, she was like, I'm into sci-fi. That's how I got on. Of course, that made me fall for her even more. But when she said that, and she said, but I like the dark stuff, like Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits. And I was like, oh man, we're going to talk after this podcast. We are more. And we did. And that's a fact. She was a total geek. She loves this stuff. And
did you record that, Pat? We need to get that as a bonus episode.
Isn't that something? I'm hoping to have her back. We really hit it off. She's such a sweet lady. So nice. So we'll see.
You guys mentioned the color episodes compared to the black and white. And I'd seen some of the black and white early episodes of Lost in Space and enjoyed the first 3 or 4 episodes. Like I say, I didn't get into it, but I do want to watch it eventually. Would you say that happens sometime with a lot of TV series when they change from black and white to color? Lost in Space kind of changed when we went to color. The Andy Griffith Show, which is not science fiction, it kind of changed when it turned into a color show. It wasn't as funny as it used to be. Another example that some people would say, which goes back to the 50s, is the Adventures of Superman with George Reeve. A lot of people say when they turned into color episodes, they lost something. They got a little more for kids and stuff. And I think that's producers kind of go into that. Some people would argue that the color episodes of Gilligan's Island are better than the black and white ones, but I don't know about that. But a lot of series had color and black and white episodes, and sometimes that happened to them, and it's very odd.
A lot of times, more times than not, as a matter of fact. And of course, with everything, when it's a fresh idea and it hits, once they start trying to mass produce it, of course, then it always kind of
like you look better.
Go, oh, mass production! I'm just going to get better. You know,
you look better in color, but you wind up not being better, even though you're in color and you look better. So yeah,
exactly.
Was it the Dick Van Dyke Show that they filmed in color but never aired in color? There is a show, and I think it's the Dick Van Dyke Show that at least some of the seasons were filmed in color, and they still opted just to go with the black and white. And I think that there is a power to black and white that, particularly if you're trying to evoke a particular feeling or sentiment, that the Andy Griffith Show worked really well with black and white. And to that extent, those early episodes, you bring up Superman, that first season was very much more crime noir than it was what it later became, which is a kid's show.
More serious,
that's true.
So that black and white worked for some shows better than color.
And believe it or not, there was one episode of Perry Mason in color, and then they went back to black and white and just abandoned the color. So it was very, very odd for them to do that.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Perfect. It takes away some of the imagination. You know, we're going to color it for you.
Just don't colorize stuff that's black and white. I hate that.
We're going to think for you. You know.
As you guys know, I'm a huge student of history. I'm a history buff from way back when. And one of the things I can't stand is they're taking this old footage from World War II and they're colorizing it. And it's fun. I mean, there was some color footage from that time, and that's okay. But when you colorize the old footage, you know, because I have like the original The World at War, and it's absolutely outstanding and it's riveting. And when you watch it, I mean, the stock footage they show you, it's like something from like just another time and place, and it was, of course. But when you colorize it, it becomes just more TV pap. It loses its edge. It loses its impact. And I think it's a real crime there. Really, it's really sad.
Maybe we all got spoiled by the Wizard of Oz, you know, going from black and white to color that will never be repeated. You know, they did it all. I mean, they hit it out of the park, and nobody else. It worked for that movie for sure.
Hey, folks, Willie Bowen has thrown down the gauntlet. These are fighting words. Anybody that knows me, Willie Bowen, if that truly is your name, knows how much I love the Andy Griffith Show. It's in my top 3. Andy Griffith, Star Trek, and Batman. 3 greatest TV shows of all time.
So when did you say Barney wasn't funny?
I
missed that part.
I don't remember him saying that.
I didn't say it's not funny, and I'm fighting a cold, folks.
Maybe you were thinking
cold and a flu. But here's the thing: we were talking about it going from black and white to color, and one of the reasons that Andy Griffith was different during those color episodes was those were seasons 6 through 8, which were the color episodes. Those seasons did not have Don Knotts as a regular cast member. He made I think it's just one appearance each year.
Yep. And those are funnier when he's on.
Figure.
They tried to replace Don with Warren, who wasn't funny. I love Jack Burns, but that just wasn't meant to be. You can't replace Barney Fife.
Yep.
I think Don Knotts is one of the funniest people ever to have graced this planet. And speaking of which, hold your horses. There's a good transition here. Let me go over to my images. Here. And this weekend on MeTV, The Ghost and Mr. Chicken airs on Svengoolie. So if you have not seen this show, and I know the crowd we're speaking to, most of you have seen this show, but one of my all-time favorite movies, because Don Knotts. If you don't have MeTV in your area, I've got a link in the description field of this video to Friendly TV. It's a free trial. Give it a shot. Your 7 days will cover you for this weekend, and you can watch The Ghost and Mr. Chicken for free. Great movie. And Willie, my friend.
There had to be a Mrs. Chicken.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would have just been the
Eventually,
egg.
there
But
was
I'm not sure
Mrs.
which came
Chicken.
first, the egg or Mrs. Chicken.
I think that's why
Eventually there was. He, he got the girl. He got the girl at the end of that.
He always got the girl.
and I think that's why Don left the show, was to pursue a movie career, and he did it. I mean, he really did. Yeah.
Richard Klein, who played Larry on Three's Company. I interviewed him years ago.
Right.
And he told me, I don't know if it's on the video or if it was off-camera chat, but he told me Don Knotts, he had a way with the ladies. The ladies loved Don Knotts. Go figure.
I read his daughter's book. I read the book his daughter wrote about him, and by all means, he had so much charisma that it was attractive. Go figure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you know what? It's Riz. That's what my kids call it these days. It's Riz, man. He had Riz. And Gary Carpenter says, attaboy Luther. Absolutely. A little known fact about the Ghost and Mr. Chicken. I'm going to say it right this time. The Ghost and Mr. Chicken is that Andy Griffith, he was brought on as a silent screenwriter, a ghostwriter for that script. Don didn't feel it was funny. You know, he had now left the Andy Griffith Show, but he and Andy were still great friends. And he gave Andy a script and said, what can you do? What can you do to funny this thing up a little bit more? And attaboy Luther is one of the Andy Griffith lines. That's a contribution from Mr. Griffith.
Right.
That's right.
Well, Andy knew that he wasn't the funny one in the earlier episodes of Andy Griffith's show, and so they turned the tables and let Don started doing it, and that's when they took off.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yep. All right, folks. So here's what we got. I got to check in with my guests. Can all of you guys stay for 10 question trivia? Do you have the time tonight for 10 questions?
There's nowhere better than here.
Sure.
Okay, good. That makes me happy.
Definitely.
That makes me happy, guys. I've got a couple commercials from the 60s. And one of the fun things about commercials from the 60s is they run 60 minutes each one of them, or 60 minutes, 60 seconds each one of them. The commercials were longer, just not that long. They were longer back then, though. Yeah, so I've got a couple commercials that were that are just indicative of the era, right? The space race. And then after that, we will dive headlong into 10 questions, 60 science fiction trivia, and we will see how we do against the community. So let's take a quick break. I'm going to go back. This thing is bone dry, so I'm going to make a quick run to the refrigerator and get that second Diet Coke that our super chatters have purchased for me tonight. And then we'll be right back with some trivia. So stick around, folks. It's going to be fun.
Here's a new cereal to help keep you in shape for the space age. New Post Count-Off, the cereal you can count on. Inside this plane, men are being specially trained for the space age. They're American astronauts in the same state of weightlessness they'll experience in outer space. A rough, rugged business being an astronaut. These men have to be in top physical condition when they face the countdown. And here's a new way to help keep you in shape for the space age. New Post Count-Off. Post Count-Off is made with nutritious oats. You can count on it. Post Count-Off is made in the shape of numbers. You can count on it. Post Count-Off has exciting space news on every package back. You can count on it. Start your day a little bit better with new Post Count-Off. 3, 2, 1. You can count on it. The Gemini space flights. The trips are long. The training is hard, like this spacewalk practice. But the astronauts do some things you do. In space, they drank Tang. They mixed it like this in a zero-G pouch, because with no gravity, it would fly all over. You don't have that problem. You can mix it in a glass. Up there, they have to drink it carefully, this way. You can drink it any way you like. Tang tastes orangey. Tastes great. Has lots of vitamins C and A. Tang, chosen for the Gemini astronauts. Have a blast. Have some Tang.
All right, we're
Gemini.
back. Gemini. Gemini.
Jumping Jiminy.
Jeez.
It's a Jiminy cricket, right?
Bumped. Yes.
I drink Tang to this day. Love Tang.
I have a jar in my kitchen.
Yeah, Tang's great. We owe the space industry. There was a lot of innovations that came out of the space race, and one of them was Tang. And I remember those space sticks. They were like little candy kind of sticks that you ate. Did anybody remember those? They were peanut butter flavored and vanilla flavored. Apparently, the astronauts took them up with them too. All right.
My favorite bit of trivia from the space races, we spent umpteen $1 billion developing a zero-gravity pen that could write in space. You know how the Russians solved the problem? They used a pencil.
We have good pencil in Russia.
True story. In pencil, lead drives you.
Much lead.
That was great.
Super lead.
Here we go. I recall space sticks. That's what Pod Blast says. Aloe Duarte as well. Space food sticks. Yeah, I remember those things. Pod Blast says he ate them and smoked them. So I did not realize that smoking was an option.
Okay.
I can't imagine them being as good. All right. So we've got 10 questions, folks. 10 questions, all of them related to science fiction, 60s style television shows. Some are pretty easy. They're not like the one last week. I had this trivia thrash. I had trivia going last week that was worthy of your trivia. It was kind of difficult. Candace Sullivan really knocked our socks off. I think I got 5 out of 10. And this was like Hollywood families. That's what the questions were.
I took it in replay. I think I got 6.
Yeah,
five or 6.
Beat me. I think you got 6. I saw it in the comments. You whooped me, and so did many community members. But I think we're going to do better tonight.
Oh.
I really do. So let me get everything set up here. Let's do this. Let's click on this. There we go. There we go. And we'll give folks 30 seconds, and then we'll just kind of work our way down the line, see how we do as a team. And we'll get scores after the third, sixth, and final question. So the first one is, what was the name of the spaceship in the TV show Lost in Space? Was it A, Apollo, B, Voyager, C, Enterprise, or D, the Jupiter 2? Timer's on the clock. And this one will be yours, Pat, should you choose to accept it when the timer ends here. So the folks went to, or my family went to Taco Bell while we were visiting. And I like it, but it's Pepsi.
Oh. There goes your endorsement. They'll be calling you right after this, Dave. You're fired.
Bring.
Yeah, they're not gonna. I'll never get a Pepsi sponsorship. I just, it's Coke for me. It's I like the less sweet cola.
Coke's headquarters is here in Atlanta. If I buy a Pepsi, they'll kick me out of the state, so I can't do it.
There you go. Pat, what do you think? What's the answer here?
The Gemini.
The Gemini.
Oh, wait a minute. No, I got that in my brain. Jupiter 2, of course.
Yeah, that's the correct answer. All right.
Yay.
Moving on to question number 2. Who played the title character in the TV series Doctor Who during the 60s? So we're talking about the first Doctor Who here. Was it A, William Hartnell, B, Tom Baker, C, John Pertwee, or D, Patrick Troughton? Okay, let me put the timer up on the clock. I'm glad this one's gone to Pat or to Thrash.
Me too.
Because I feel like he's going to get this one right, whereas I, on the other hand, may have gone with an incorrect answer. By the way, these questions are generated by ChatGPT. I went to ChatGPT and I said, give me 10 questions related to 60 science fiction TV shows. and with 4 multiple choices, and this is what they gave me. So I'm pretty darn impressed.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, ChatGPT is no Candace Sullivan. These are significantly, I think, easier than what Candace can come up with when we use the trivia over from the Remind magazine. But what do you think, Bob?
Oh, A. William Hartnell.
That is the correct answer. William Hartnell. Yep. I would have gone Pertwee. Why would I have done Pertwee? Was he second?
Well, Pertwee was the first one to be popular here in the States. That's when the show first started being shown in any real strength. It had actually had 2 doctors before that. William Hartnell, who was only, I think, doctor for 2 years, and then Patrick Troughton.
Okay.
And, yeah.
John Pertwee is a great actor outside of Doctor Who. Did a lot of stuff, and his son is actually a great actor as well.
He was in, was it City of the Dead? That
Talking about John or his son?
His son. His son was in a really cool zombie movie set in Scotland a few years ago.
He's in a werewolf movie set in Scotland called directed by Neil Marshall. Now I can't remember what it is. Dog Soldiers. He's in that. I'm not sure about the other one though, but he could be. I know he played
Malcolm McDowell's in it too.
Didn't he play Alfred in Gotham too as well?
He did. He did. Yes, he did. Yes. Very good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is Sean Pertwee, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good actor.
Yes.
God, I never.
That was a good Alfred. That Alfred really.
Oh, he was the best.
Yeah.
He was the best. That was
No,
one of the
Gotham
best.
is
Batmans,
Gotham is
period.
underrated. Gotham is an underrated television show. It was fantastic.
One of the
And
best ever.
Yeah, it had some. It was influenced. You can look at the influences going all the way back to Batman '66.
Oh yeah.
There was crazy things, and yet it was so loving in terms of what it did. I mean, the fact that they brought Paul Rubens back to reprise his role as Penguin's father, just little
Carol
touches
Kane.
like that. It's just so good.
Oh yeah, the best. I got to meet a portion of the cast, and oh man, I was so starstruck. That show was so good.
And I know they couldn't do it justice, because the character, the person that played Bruce Wayne, hadn't grown up enough to be Batman. But the end when he became Batman, he looked like a pretty wimpy Batman.
It's probably they show him too much. It was like, who is that?
But I love the person who played Catwoman, and then the main characters, Gordon, his girlfriend,
Penguin and the Riddler. Those cats were the best.
Oh yes,
come on, hands down, folks. If you haven't seen it, you must.
Patrick Troughton as well was in a Space 1999 episode, and he was also in the Scars of Dracula with Christopher Lee. So Patrick did a lot of stuff outside.
Yeah, wow.
Very cool.
Movie with the Gorgon too. He was in that as well.
No kidding.
This one's yours, Barry. We'll put the timer on the clock. I know this one's a piece of cake for you. In Star Trek, what was Captain Kirk's middle initial? I'm going to start the timer now because people don't need 30 seconds. A, is it T, B, R, C, S, or D, A? By the way, I don't think we actually knew his middle initial at first, didn't we? It took a while for it.
Well,
they had the initial, but not the actual what the initial stood for. That came later.
Is that what it was? We had the initial, but we didn't know what it stood for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll wait
So they changed it. Why not?
I'll wait till the timer runs out for people to answer before I give my little bit of trivia on that too. Wow. We talked about the animated series earlier, and the animated series established that the T, which is A, stands for Tiberius. So if you're going to use Tiberius as his middle name, then the animated show must be canon then. And I think it was the official 4th season of Star Trek. But Where No Man's Gone Before, the pilot episode of the second go at it with Captain Kirk instead of Jeffrey Hunter as Captain Pike, Gary Lockwood played his friend who with the glowing eyes and becomes a god and actually makes Kirk's grave appear. And on his gravestone, it says James R. Kirk on the tombstone, which is, they changed it later. So there's a little tidbit for you there. So it is T.
That's
Well,
right.
and here's the way I justify that. So that was Gary Lockwood's character was creating that illusion, right? How does he know what his middle initial is?
Because we were friends in the academy.
They were
They were
old.
buddies.
Yeah.
They grew up together.
They were friends. They were buddies.
Yeah.
He should have known. Was the point?
Way to blow that theory.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
But I think
But there is
he didn't
partial
like it.
credit for the
He was
answer
mad at
R.
him.
I mean, you got to give folks
He
a
was mad
little
at him,
bit
so
of.
I'm sure he replaced it with an R,
points.
which was an expletive or some kind to make him mad or something.
I think it was for Roddenberry. It was a nod to Roddenberry.
Yeah, I think it
Could
was
be.
too.
Yeah, could have been.
And
I
I
think it
think we
was
will
too,
give
Bob.
half credit. If anybody said R, I think we are obligated to give half credit for that.
Agreed.
So folks, there you go. Little bonus credit for you for your hard work. Let's see scores real quick here. Hang on, let me go over to the comment section. Folks are starting to put scores in. We got Al Odawardi, 3 of 3. Nicely done. Custom God, 3 of 3. And by the way, Al and Custom God are coming over from Pat's channel. This has really been sweet having folks over on both channels watching this live stream tonight. We'll definitely do this in the future. Sorry,
Yes.
Barry. I can't help it, Barry. You're out of the picture right now. Here's what I'm going to do for you, Barry, because you are just that great. Here we go. Mike D is
And he's kind of
3
cute.
of 3. And Wilkinson is 3 of 3. Matter of fact, why don't you share the scores? My voice is just... Here we go. Go for it, Barry.
Oh, we got Superplex is 2 for 3. Got to put on my bionic eyes here. Jay Aldridge is 3 for 3. Way to go. 3 and 3 there. Carlene Maloney, I think, or Malone, 2 for 3. I think Dave knows these names more than I do. Skulldron's Realm is 2 of 3 there. Way to go. Man known only as Jeff is perfect so far, is 3 for 3. And Chance, the nostalgic pod blast, is perfect with 3 for 3. I think he's going to be 3 for all the way through. Melissa Foster, 3 for 3. And Sakina McMurrin, 3 for 3. All right, way to go. Yeah, that's right. Chance is still 3 for 3. That's right. Emily Miller, 2 out of 3. She missed 1. And Kitty Mom is 3. So we got a lot of 3 for 3s there. Simply Steve 68, 3 out of 3. Way to go. Fantastic.
And I think we can give Kitty Mom 2.5 points because she said R.
She's 2.5 for 3. So
2.5 correct.
Right.
Yep.
And Danny's got them all. He's 3 for 3 so far. Yeah, we got a few more to go. Gary Carpenter, 3 for 3. Fantastic.
Oh, wait, we're back to Chance. Here, let me take him off the screen here. All right, let's see what we got. Here we go. Oh, we're back that way. I want to get the questions back on the screen, though, so hold on. Let's see.
I'm 3 for 3, too, by the way.
There we go. I assumed that you fellers are 3 for 3. Are you all 3 for 3 right now?
Of course we are. We're all experts, Dave. What do you think this is?
I know, but I feel like I need to ask.
I'm tempted to cover up the questions from now on and just guess the answer at the bottom where I can't see it, where I can be a little handicapped.
That's
an
interesting idea. I like that. Okay, let's see. Let's go to the next question. There are a couple toughies in here. A couple.
Good.
Who played the lead character David Vincent in The Invaders? Was it A, Roy Thinnis, B, David Hedison, C, Barry Morse, or D, Michael Rennie? I'll put the timer on the clock, and we're back up to Pat. Do you feel comfortable answering this one, Pat?
I thought it was Thrash's turn.
Is it Thrash's turn?
I'll take it.
Wait,
I'll take it.
Don't answer yet.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right.
Here's what we're doing. We're going down and then back up. Down and back up. Down and back up. So it is your turn, Thrash.
Oh, then I would go. Oh, ready? Wait for it. A, Roy Tittis.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Nicely done. Moving on.
Wow. Every other
now
actor.
this one's yours, Pat.
I would have said Ray Tennis. I would have.
5. Who played the character, of Will Robinson in Lost in Space? Is it A, Bill Mumy?
I think everybody's laughing at me right now. It's like, could Pat get any easier questions? Jeez.
C. Guy Williams or D. Mark Goddard? Turning on the timer.
Pat, if you miss this.
Seconds.
I'm fired. I'll never get invited back again.
All right. Okay. Well, what do we do? For the longest time, I thought it was Mummy.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Mummy.
And I did too as a kid. I always said
Bill Mummy. I think in that video, actually, the Jonathan Harris video, I think I say Mummy. All right, Pat. What's the answer?
Loomy.
Loomy. Yep.
You're a bad man.
Yeah.
Very bad.
Move to the cornfield.
All right, one more, and then we'll have Bob read some scores for us. This one's, I think, one of the tougher ones. Although it seems on the, it seems, well, I'll just read it. 6. What was the name of the time machine in the time tunnel? Was it A, the time sphere, B, the time capsule, C, the time tunnel, or D, let's do the time warp again? Timer's going.
I guess the obvious answer must be wrong.
Or is it? I don't know. I don't want to lead folks one way or the other.
Is this me, by the way? Is this me or Barry? I lost track.
Oh, wait, hang on. Pat just answered the last one, so it's back down to you. Yeah, it's you, Thrash. Okay. You can phone a friend if you're not certain on this, but, you got a 1 in 4 chance. Okay, what do you think?
The last time I didn't go for the obvious, it was the obvious. So tonight I'm going with the obvious and going C, the time tunnel.
That is correct. That is correct.
So
here's the weird thing. Chat GPT told me it was the time sphere, and I could not. I've only watched maybe, 6 or 7 episodes of Time Tunnel, but I could not, for the life of me, remember it ever being referred to as a time sphere.
Ever.
And so I went and looked it up, and I could not find anything. I mean, I saw references to it as the time tunnel, and so I changed. ChatGPT is wrong, so they're 5. ChatGPT AI is 5 of 6, by the way.
It's not perfect.
No, it's not.
Close.
It's not.
Some of these sites are wrong, and it takes guys like us to correct them.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So let's get some scores here. We're 6. We're at 6, so folks, put in your score. I got to say thank you. Wait, hold on a second. Before we do that, I've got a super sticker from David Rasmussen. Thanks, David. That's really kind of you. And I also have Kevin Scott 76 dropped a super chat, and he says, I wrote Gene Roddenberry in 1979, and he wrote me back. Probably because we had a mutual friend who was my Star Trek pen pal, Robbie Robinson. That is very cool, and thank you for sharing, Kevin Scott. Let me pull up a little something fun here. Let's do a little something Star Trek-y here as a way of saying thank you to these fine fellers for their support. How about a little Shatner?
No, I thank you. And again, I thank you.
And again, I thank you. All right, so let me get here to scores. And I'm going to put you full screen too and take me on mute so I can just cough up a storm while you're doing this, Bob.
Be happy.
Let's see. Yeah, here we go. There you are. And let me get some scores going. Hold on. Got to get to the top where the scores are. I'm going to start with Superplex. So if you were before that, post your score again. And let me put me on mute.
And Zuplex is 4 of 6. And Ken Wilkinson is 5 out of 6. Excellent. And Alfred Award D is 5 out of 6. And Mike D is 5 out of 6. And Keith E is 4 out of 6. Good job, Keith. And Custom God is 5 out of 6. And Jay Albridge is also 5 out of 6. Hey, Jay, how you doing, man? And Skuldron's Realm is 5 out of 6. And Sakina McCurran is 6 of 6. Way to go. And Simply Steve 68 is 4 out of 6. And Kitty Mom is 4.5 out of 6. We're giving you that half point. Excellent. And Gary Carpenter, my man, is 6 out of 6. And Melissa Foster is 5 out of 6. And Carolee Maloney is 4 out of 6. Emily Miller is 4 out of 6, but she's going downhill fast. Emily, you're always doing great. Oh, she altered the score. It's 3 out of 6. And Carolee Maloney is, 3 out of 6. Ooh, people are reevaluating their scores, huh? And Kevin Scott 76 is, I had a chance to meet William Shatner, and I was too afraid.
Been there.
And David Rassaman says, I got a 0. Well, better luck next time. And there we have it, folks. Well, there it is.
Let me get off mute here, and let's keep this. We're gonna go quickly now to the very end. Let's see what we have here. Hold on one second.
Oh, can I ask a question while you're
Yeah, go for it.
I noticed somebody in the comments had the handle Graybeard. Graybeard, I gotta ask you, is this a reference to the Brian Aldiss post-apocalyptic book? Because it's my favorite post-apocalyptic story of all time. If it is, please let me know. If not, it's still a cool handle.
All right. We'll keep an eye. Everybody keep an eye on the chat and see if we can get a response to that. Okay. Number 7. Barry, I think this one's yours. What was the name of the robot in Lost in Space that was known for his catchphrase, "Danger, Will Robinson"? Let me put a timer up on the screen. We'll give folks their 30 seconds to answer. And, for the longest time, I do know the answer to this one. But for the longest time, I will say this. I would have answered it wrong. I just, for some reason, growing up, I thought it was one of the other answers.
Barry, you're making me nervous.
And when I was, and wouldn't it be, I mean, I've got 6 for 6. And the last question, if I blew it, that would be terrible. As a kid, and it's not up there, the name I'm going to throw out, it's not up there. But I just simply thought for a while that he was just called Robot. Because that's
actually a correct answer. So if you get it wrong, you will get credit for it. It was
no, he won't.
It was called the Robot or Robot, but it had a model number. So that kind of gives it away a little bit.
You don't get it right. I'm never listening to that radio show again. Except for the very beginning.
He was the great grandfather robot to BB-8 in Star Wars. A lot of people don't know that, and his name was B9.
Yes,
number 1. So
awesome.
There you go.
You done me proud, Barry.
Thank you, Pat.
Well done. Well done. Coming back your way, Bob. We're going to test your Twilight Zone knowledge. Another one of my favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone. I'm so glad that Chat GPT came up with this question. It says, in the Twilight Zone, what was the name of the famous episode of about a man who loved to read but was trapped with, it was the twist at the end, but was trapped with broken glasses? Was it A, Time Enough at Last, B, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, C, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, or we've already talked about this one, D, To Serve Man? The timer has been engaged. We'll give folks another 25 seconds or so to answer.
All 4 great episodes, by the way.
I know.
Answer.
So.
I have never seen The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. What's that?
Great.
Plot.
If we tell you what it's about, it'll ruin the episode.
That's right.
You have to just go see it.
Here's what I'm going to commit to. I'm watching it tonight. That's what I'm going to watch tonight after the live stream.
Yep.
Good.
Okay. Bob.
It's not fair. It's just not fair.
Poor penguin.
I know, really. The answer A, Time Enough at Last.
Yeah. Burgess Meredith, what a great actor.
National treasure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
National treasure.
So good.
I saw him get his star on the Hollywood Boulevard when I was walking to school one day. It just so happened to be happening. And he was
so you actually saw it happening in real time.
Yes, and it was very old. And one of those tour buses went by with the open roofs, and everybody looked over and cheered for him. And he looked up and went, wah, 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 wah. And I'm telling you, that whole street came unglued.
That's great. Wasn't it great the way the Twilight Zone, the motion picture, opened with Dan Aykroyd and at the beginning, and when they're talking, it's like, the one where he destroyed the glasses at the end. That made me rush out and buy 2 new pair of glasses after I saw that. I couldn't believe it. Albert Brooks, that's right. Albert Brooks was there.
Yeah, that is. By the way, I Twilight Zone the movie has its it has its good points and its highs and lows, but that opening is one of my favorites ever. I just love that opening with those 2 guys.
It was great.
And of course, Burgess Meredith narrated it too. By the way,
that's right.
He was the impresario.
Yes,
Rocky.
Folks, we actually do know stuff. Mm-hmm.
He does indeed. All right, 9. Pat, this is good that it's coming to you. This is a good one. What was the name of the creature, or race of creature, I should say, that Captain Kirk fought in the episode Arena of Star Trek? Don't know hints. We gotta put the timer. Yeah, get it out.
Wait
I
for
didn't do
it.
that. This thing's got a mind of its own.
Don't let me
30
down.
seconds.
Knock it off down there. You're giving away
Was
the
it
answers.
A Gorn, B, a Klingon, C, a Romulan, or D, a Ferengi?
Don't let me down, Pat. Come on, Pat.
Yeah. Pat, if you get this one wrong.
Yeah. Radio spots cancel if you get this one wrong, Pat.
You're officially off the
I gotta
show.
let you off the show, yeah. Terrible.
Yeah.
By the way, and I know you probably talk about this at the end, but Pat can be heard on the Barry King's radio show every Saturday and on replay on Sundays as well on WBH T or F. What's that say there?
WBHF. That's right.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that in a minute.
Yes.
Anyway, what's the answer, Pat?
Well, with this one, I shall be quick and merciful.
It's going to ham it up.
He was the Gorn, voiced by Ted Cassidy.
Yes, voiced by Ted Cassidy.
Yeah. No,
So let's see your little Gorn again.
it's my baby Gorn.
Baby Gorn, so cute, so
Isn't
cute, yet still somehow dangerous.
I sleep with him every night.
Gorn between two lovers.
Okay.
Gorn between two lovers. Okay, should I say we sleep with him every night? I guess. It's like, honey, get the Gorn out again. What?
One final question, and then we'll get final scores. It's coming back at you, Thrash, and then Pat will have you do final scores, if that's all right.
Yeah.
What famous producer was responsible for The Invaders? Was it A, Aaron Spelling, B, Quinn Martin, C, Sherwood Schwartz, or D, Bill
If you're
Dozier?
paying attention, we talked about this earlier. We did.
I think a lot of these things, if you pay attention to a RetroPALooza live stream, you get a lot of, you'll be ready for most trivia contests. We prep you. That's what we do, and we don't charge anything for it.
That's right.
We're wonderful people.
I'm trying to figure out how to charge for it, but I can't figure out what to sell. Oh.
Yeah, I got to tell you guys, this is one of my favorite evenings. When we do this, every 2-3 months, it's just absolutely one of my favorite evenings. Just to hang out with you guys, and to have we got the three of you, my brothers from other mothers, and then everybody in the community too. We're just all just basking in the geekiness of it all, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
I love it.
All right, whose turn was it? It's yours, Pat or Bob, right?
Mine. I'll try to do this in my very weak William Conrad voice. B, a Quinn Martin production.
Very well done.
Not bad.
Very well done. So what were the? So Invaders was Quinn Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Irwin Allen was beneath Voice the Bottom of the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
What was Quinn? Or was Land of the Giants? Irwin Allen.
Irwin Allen.
Yes.
Irwin and also Lost in Space and
So we're all
Land of the Bottom of the Sea.
What about Land of the Giants?
Yeah.
Land of the Giants.
I think
Irwin
Quinn
Allen.
Martin's only foray into science fiction was The Invaders. That's the only one he ever did that was sci-fi.
It was.
Okay.
It was.
Okay. Well, there we go. Not too hard for me to get them confused. But I always did. For some reason, I thought some of those were Quinn Martin shows as well. All right, let me get into the comments. We're going to get some final scores.
I think they're one guy. It's
We're going to get some final scores here, and I'm going to put Pat on the big screen, the Jumbotron, and me on mute. So hold on. Let me scroll up to the top of the scores here so we're all ready for that. I think we're going to start with Al Oduwardi, Pat.
Ready. Alfred Oduwardi, 9 out of 10. 3 were good guesses. Kenneth Wilkinson's 9 out of 10. Jay Aldridge, 9 for 10. Simply Steve, 68, 8 out of 10. Honest Steve. Mike D, 8-10. Superplex, 8 for 10. Custom God, 8 for 10, a popular score. Kitty Mom, 7.5, point 10. Point 10. Skoldrin's Rome, 8 for 10. One Burn Man. Thanks, fella. I really appreciate the slime chat. Wait, that's not a score. Karen Lee Maloney, 6 for 10. Karen, disappoint me. Keith E, 7 out of 10. It's great seeing all four of you guys. Thanks. We love being together. Melissa Foster, 8 for 10. Gary Carpenter, 9 for 10. Not bad, Gary. Sakina McMurran, 10 for 10. Well, she wins. And thank you for the compliment. Of course, Chance. What else would you have? Perfect score. Emily Miller, you're perfect without a score. Kevin Scott, 76, 8 for 10. Yep, 100%. Man known only as Jeff. Man only as Pat says, 8 for 10. Gary Carpenter, we know you're kicking butt. They'd be giving me the same scores. Quinn Martin did do Barnaby Jones, and that is true. Everybody be sure to subscribe to Dave and Pat's and Thrashpondo and BK on the Airs channel. I wanted to throw that in there. You're still on mute, buddy.
You're on mute. I think this is a perfect time to talk about channels since Emily brought it up, but I do have to get scores from each one of you. Pat, how did you land?
10 for 10, of course.
Bob?
I also managed to do 10 for 10.
And Barry? Nicely done, fellers. Nicely done. I'm trying to think. The Doctor Who one, if I had to, I'm
lying. It was actually 9 for 10, and that one threw me.
That one, I think I would probably, if I'd been in the community playing this without any prep work or anything, I think I would have been 9 for 10.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm going to land for my score. But Emily has a great point. Yes, of course, subscribe to my channel. But one of the reasons that's great to get these guys in front of you is so that you can all be aware of the great work that they do as well. So I'm going to, again, hey, Barry, guess what? You're going to be first as well. We're going to start with you, and I'd love to have you kind of talk a little bit about what you do, your channel, and then reminder folks on all of these. All you have to do is go to the description section of this live stream if you're over on my channel, and there's links to all of these channels so you can subscribe. So,
well, let me say thanks. I've had a great time with you guys as usual. RetroPALooza marches on. Looking forward to the next one. If you like everything you saw tonight, all that we talked about, what we were passionate about, what we love, what we always want to talk about, you can check me out. First and foremost, I have a radio show. It's a live show on radio. That's right. It's an actual radio station that's been on the air since 1946. It's WBHF in Cartersville, Georgia. I'm in Northwest Georgia, just northwest of Atlanta. You can hear it at WBHFradio.org or download the TuneIn or the Radio Garden app. That's TuneIn and Radio Garden. It's BK on the air. My show is on 10 a.m. till noon Saturdays. And the other interesting thing I do is when I get done at 12 o'clock on Saturday, I take that show and I remove all the boring commercials out of it and spruce it up and put old classic commercials in it and Schoolhouse Rock and cool things like that and turn it into a podcast. And you can see it up on the screen there, my YouTube channel. You can hear it there along with a lot of other classic TV spots and commercials and other things that these guys love as much as I do. And you can also hear me I'm out there on SoundCloud and Spotify for podcasters and what's the other one? I can't think of the other one. That's it. That's all of them. Yeah, that's just, I've streamlined it. So YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. That's the way you can hear me or live on the radio show. So I'm glad to be here every time we do this. And we have a passion for nostalgic stuff, and I love it.
You're up, Bob.
Oh, I'm up. It's Thrashpondo Pons. And it's a nostalgia channel where I mostly talk about vintage sci-fi and horror, film and literature, of course. But I've also spruced it up. I do, I have posts on dad jokes, of which I am a master, and some other fun stuff too. And I also do a live chat. I'm now doing it on Sunday nights, 7:30. I call it Thrash Time. That's East Coast time for the rest of the planet. And basically general discussion. I, too, do a trivia game and general Q&A. And we usually have a topic, almost always nostalgia related. And folks just join on. They throw their questions out, and I answer them as best I can. And we have a lot of fun. So if you like nostalgia, particularly in the sci-fi horror and vintage dad jokes, please join my channel, and looking forward to hearing you.
Yeah, you guys, Bob's stuff is great. His trivia is a little bit harder than mine, and he definitely has a dedicated community. Hence the very popular Thrashpondo T-shirts that are being sold on my channel for the time being, but will soon be available on his, I'm sure. All right, Pat, your turn, my friend. Let's tell us a little bit about your channel, because your channel is, you've really kind of, we've talked a little bit about it, but you've really kind of morphed into something that is just a sweet spot for you.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say I've totally messed it up, Dave. You know, obviously, but first of all, I got to hand kudos to Dave Sundstrom doing this thing sick and being the host that he is.
Yes.
How can you not be a fan of this guy? And am I a fan of Barry King and Bob Thrashpondo Pons? You guys got to love these guys as much as I do, because they are the greatest. We are all fans of each other and really good friends, which is why I look forward to this more than just about anything I do. But one of the other things I do is create videos for YouTube at Golden Rage of TV. You can find them there. You can find a lot there, because I've been doing it for altogether too long and with way too many subscribers. Way not enough. So the most undersubscribed YouTube channel in the history of, anyway, folks.
Yeah, I will actually second that, Pat. I'm going to just be that voice off screen right here for a minute. But your channel is an absolute delight, and it's given me so much joy over the past 2-3 years because of what you've done, and you've continued to evolve and develop as a creator, which all content creators should, by the way, continue to do that. And you started out with the smaller videos, the snack size kind of fun videos that, Barry still highlights on his show. And I know that other channels have had you on as well doing those, but you have really, I swear, this is your calling. The ability to sit down and have an extended conversation with a celebrity and really kind of put them at ease and ask questions that that don't get asked every time that they sit down with an interviewer. That's the thing. You aren't just a reporter or a podcast person. You are someone who loves the work that they've done. And that's why, folks, if you love this kind of work, all three of these guys, but Pat's podcast, man, someday, folks, we're going to say, remember when we knew Pat Cormack, that famous podcaster?
Gosh, Dave, how do I follow that up?
He's gonna forget all three of us at that point. We're like, wow, Pat, where'd you go? How about a little sympathy?
We'll be lucky if he pops into the chat every now and again. But that'll be the end of that.
Or any of these wonderful people with us tonight. I will remember you all forever. And I'm not going anywhere. But the podcast is Retro TV Radio. That's what you'll look for. And it is available on most popular platforms. I've had over 30 classic TV celebrities join me so far. And just today, I landed Ronnie Shell. I haven't had the interview yet, but yeah, I got Slater. I can't. So I'm just like a little giddy kid when I get these interviews, because it's just, I can't believe, one, I get them, and then to start talking to them only to find out they're the most down-to-earth, wonderful, like-minded, loving people you'd ever want to know. And so that makes it easy. And so, yeah, I'm really concentrating on that, but I'm still making tribute videos, retro TV trivia, and enjoy my time on BK on the Air, my gracious buddy that has me there. I so appreciate that. And I don't know how much more I can say about these guys. That's good. There isn't enough words to say how good these guys are. They're my best friends, and this is just a blast. And gosh, I love all you guys in the chat. Man, love this.
I'm glad you brought it back to the chat, because it's this community that makes this. It's really the engine that keeps the live streams going, and all of the content work that we do, whether it's on radio, on more conventional formats, or over here on YouTube, or a combination. If we didn't have an audience, if we didn't have a community, we wouldn't really. What's the point, right? Yeah, what is the point? True. So I love to close out my live streams with a word from Fred Rogers, but I'm sure he speaks for all of us when he says this.
You are special.
Thanks to everyone who joined us tonight, whether it be on Pat's channel or on my channel. We truly appreciate you. Pat, Barry, Bob, appreciate you. Thanks, buddies, for being on tonight. I'm going to stay on. We're going to end the live stream now, but I'm going to stay on for about 10 minutes and let folks visit and say goodbye and hang out. I've got a couple videos in that will play while you guys do that. But thanks again, everyone, and I truly hope you all have a wonderful night. Nope, your eyes are not deceiving you. That's Lucille Ball, and yes, she is the woman who saved Star Trek. I promise that before this video is over, it will all make sense. But before I get going, let me introduce myself. Hi folks, my name is Dave Sundstrom, and I like to think of myself as something of a pop culture historian, especially when it comes to music, movies, and television. Simply put, I love talking about this stuff. So with that said, let's get rolling. Growing up, I absolutely loved the I Love Lucy show. As a kid, I thought Lucy was so darn funny, and it was always a special treat when this episode aired on television. I love how the story never called George Reeves anything but Superman. I know there are better episodes of the show out there, but this one will forever be my favorite. So anyway, let's jump forward almost a decade to the mid-60s when Lucy, who is now divorced from Desi Arnaz, becomes aware of this feller. Yep, that's a young and ambitious Gene Roddenberry. You see, Lucy, at the time, is in charge of the creative side of Desilu Studios, the side of their business that greenlights new TV projects, and Mr. Roddenberry, well, he has a doozy of an idea. Of course, I'm talking about Star Trek. At first, Lucy didn't really understand the concept of the show, but once she did, she was on board and gave her approval for Gene to film a pilot episode. That pilot was titled The Cage, and it starred Jeffrey Hunter as Captain Christopher Pike, For those who know and love Star Trek, especially the original series, this pilot had a bit of a different feel to it. Leonard Nimoy was part of the cast as Mr. Spock, but even he seemed a little bit off. And you know what? Test audiences didn't love it. And the studio execs at Desilu overseeing production of the pilot were ready to cut everyone loose and take their losses. But you know what? Lucy wasn't ready. Going against the advice of others, she greenlit a second pilot to be filmed, and Gene Roddenberry went back to work. He combed through the feedback that he'd received from test audiences and produced a second Star Trek pilot titled Where No Man Has Gone Before. And this one starred a guy named William Shatner as a different kind of captain, less weary and a heck of a lot more brash and bold. And this pilot just felt different, and the executives at NBC agreed, asking Desilu to move forward with production. But wouldn't you know it, the Desilu executives again were hesitant. It was an expensive show to produce, and for a third time, Lucy would have to step in to move the project forward. And the rest, as they say, was television history. Star Trek went on to become a worldwide phenomenon, and none of this would have happened had it not been for Lucille Ball. And here's the really cool thing. It wasn't just Star Trek. Along with starring in her own show for CBS, Variety reported in the summer of 1966 that along with Star Trek, Desilu Studios had decided to move forward with another risky and very expensive TV show titled Mission Impossible. So there you go. Not only did Lucy save Star Trek, but she also had a hand in bringing the world Mission Impossible. Alright, I promised everybody who stuck around to the very end something fun, so how about this?
Black Bart, I hear you're the best solitaire player in Tombstone. I challenge you.
You're on, Lucy.
Solitaire, the game you play against yourself or someone else.
Full house, 25 points.
4 jacks, 50 points.
You've got to play your cards just right to make a high score.
Oh.
200 points. Only the ace of spades can beat me now.
Aha. Black Bart, you are now the second best solitaire player in Tombstone. Solitaire from Milton Bradley. It's a real challenge.
You know, I have got to say, the more that I learn about Lucille Ball, the more impressed I become. Alright, now it's your turn. Please share your memories in the comments section of this video, and if you enjoyed my little trip down memory lane, please give it a thumbs up. That's how I will know if I should make more videos like this one. And I would be absolutely honored if you would consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I talk about music, movies, and mostly television from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, the good stuff. But most importantly, and as always, thank you so much for watching.